Okay, so we're just going to have a quick demonstration on the pancreatic endocrine cells, what hormones they produce and how those hormones interact with each other. So we'll be looking within pancreatic tissue at the islets of Langerhans, which secrete the endocrine hormones. There are designated areas within the pancreas that secrete exocrine substances, but we're not going to deal with those today. Okay, so the first hormone that we'll be working with is secreted by the alpha cells that are at the periphery of the islet of Langerhans. These alpha cells, comprise approximately 25% of all the cells are alpha cells, and they secrete glucagon. Glucagon is produced in response to low blood glucose, in response to decreased blood glucose. Okay, the other main cells we'll be working with are beta cells. These are on the inside of the islet of Langerhans. They comprise approximately 65% of endocrine cells within this islet, and they secrete insulin. And I like to remember that insulin is secreted from cells on the inside. Okay, glucagon is secreted in response to, as you might expect, the opposite to glucagon, which is increased blood glucose as one of its stimulators. Then we have these little cells. I've drawn them in between the alpha and beta cells, but these cells are actually scattered throughout the islet, and they're also in other areas of the body. These are the delta cells, and they secrete somatostatin. So I should say somatostatin is secreted in other areas, not the delta cells. They might be different cells, I'm not sure. All right, they account for about 10% of your endocrine cells within the islet. All right, now I'd like to talk about the interactions of these hormones. So we'll start with somatostatin because that's an interesting one. Basically, if we look at the word origin, we've got somato, which means body, and statin, which means stationary or stop, which explains the other name for somatostatin, which is growth hormone inhibiting hormone, which you might have come across before. Pardon the terrible, terrible handwriting. Okay, so somatostatin actually has the effect to stop the party at both ends. When secreted, it actually downregulates the secretion of both insulin and glucagon. Insulin, which is secreted when there's high blood glucose, also has the effect on glucagon of downregulating glucagon secretion. Glucagon's the only one that wants to party because it actually increases secretion of insulin and increases secretion of somatostatin, which is interesting because if you think about why it might be increasing the secretion of its opponent in response to low blood glucose, this one, why would it increase insulin? I like to think about it as directly increasing insulin secretion and indirectly decreasing it so that all of these hormones exist to maintain a balance of blood glucose. It's important to maintain physiological blood glucose levels, which are not entirely, they're regulated by these hormones, but these hormones are influenced by factors outside this little sphere of interaction. So these are the interactions between these hormones. However, there are other influences such as direct nervous input that may change the levels of these, and that's why we have these feedback mechanisms such that they can maintain homeostasis.